you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Buckminster Fuller. What? I was in Hamburg, Germany. I was strolling along an inconsequential side street on my way back to my hotel when I saw that quote in a storefront window in big letters in English. I stopped, read it again, took a picture, and just stared. Where in the world did that quote come from? I don't mean the author, whose name I'd never heard before. I mean, what was it doing right here? Don't fight reality, build something new. I let the words sink in a bit. It was the summer of 2024, and it felt like a moment of change for me personally and professionally, and even for our nation. I couldn't help but feel that stumbling upon that quote was like a God sighting. And its meaning has stayed with me, not just practically, but theologically. I wonder if the Magi would have appreciated that quote too. I like to think they would. Already open, inquisitive, curious about the star, confident that it signals something extraordinary, they travel far, laden with extravagant gifts. They go first to Herod, who curiously is totally unaware of the star. But Herod tells them to continue on their journey and then report back. So they keep traveling until they finally reach the place they were seeking. And they find something not grand at all, but humble and vulnerable and ordinary. What? Can this be it? They must have wondered that. But yes, it is. Trust the signs. They trust the star enough to say that our eyes say this is ordinary, but the star and our hearts say this is absolutely anything but. And so they offer their gifts and eventually go. Now, as it turns out, they are not only wise travelers, but also system disruptors. Not by fighting, not by opposing, but by stepping into a new way altogether. As Matthew writes, and as Nikki just read, having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they go home by another way. Changed by their encounter with Jesus, they are no longer beholden to Herod. They obey God, not protocol. They trust their gut, not tradition. They are among the first people, these Gentile foreigners, to step into a new model that makes the old one obsolete. Herod's reign, of course, epitomizes the old model. Rule by fear, control, extraction, violence. Though the Magi consult him at first, in the end they ignore him altogether. Because after meeting the Christ child, returning to Herod would be nonsensical. Even amid helicopters close by, they choose a different path. And then there's Joseph. Often we leave out these last 3 verses that we read this morning when we read the story of the Magi. We just skip over Joseph. But they're critical. And though he plays an absolutely critical role in this story, he doesn't say a word. He's an example by what he does. In Matthew's gospel, you'll remember back in the first chapter, Joseph has a dream in which he encounters God's messenger who tells him that Mary is pregnant. And here we hear that he encounters a messenger who says Jesus is in danger. And eventually he'll have a dream that says it's okay to return home. Each time he hears, he believes, he trusts God. Now, we might not say that Joseph is building a new model entirely, but he is protecting the one who will. Maybe not all disruption involves protest. Joseph doesn't speak, he doesn't protest. His listening, though, that's courageous. It's discernment in motion. To protect his family, he moves across borders into uncertainty, allowing the divine to reorder his life. In him, we see how love listens, how faith protects, how revelation calls for something not habitual. Guarding what is sacred often means saying no to empire and yes to risk. His faith required this movement because what looked safe absolutely was not. You know, when I stumbled on that quote in Hamburg, I didn't even notice what the store was selling. But then maybe that was the point. Not to sell something, but to help change the world. That display was not about what you could get, but about what you could give, create, or follow. That's the old model being made obsolete. You may remember that back in August I preached, we stand for love and justice. We are not the resistance. I still lean into that. Being against things, for me at least, is a hard way to live. It keeps your guard up and your fists ready and your weapons aimed. And yet, the Magi and Joseph, they disrupted systems. They challenged the old order. And yes, we might call that resistance. But here's the difference, I think. Their lives were not defined by opposition. They didn't act against Herod for the sake of being against him. They acted in response to God. They were following a new model, or we could maybe argue an entirely old model, but that's a different sermon. They are not fighting against the old model. They are doing something new altogether. Because it's not worth it to be against Herod. Herod is not worth it. It is, however, worth it to be for God. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying there aren't people we should be against. I am saying that the foci of that work, the star in that sky, is who we are for and what we are about. If we are centered on living as Christ teaches, then we too are at the center of a new reality. We are defined by what we are for and not by what we are against. And I recognize all the ways that shifting that center of gravity is disruptive to systems, to organizations, even to individuals. It can be agitating enough that it may seem safer to stick with the status quo. I get it. And it may be that when you change that center, people will say you are being disruptive. But we, friends, are not the ones who are demanding the change. We are simply following the one who was and is and will always be working to reorder the universe according to God's desires. Which are lifting up the lowly, loving all people, undoing hierarchies, unbinding those who are burdened, calling everyone the adopted, beloved children of God. Like the Magi and like Joseph, we may disrupt the old system, but we are not defined by resistance. We go home by another way. Beloved, Epiphany is not just lingering Christmas. It's not just the stars in the sky. Epiphany's call is urgent. It is not a sentimental season. It's an invitation to see and name where God is revealed, and then to align ourselves accordingly. In dreams, in stars, in unexpected arrivals, in the most unlikely and humble of places, divine presence appears. And those who perceive it are invited into the work of protection and protest and prophetic imagination. Beloved, in a moment we will come to the table. We will bring our gifts, our tithes and our offerings, and our children will bring the bread and the cup. And we will lay these before the one that we call King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, but most significantly, Emmanuel, God with us, God incarnate, God become human to know our joys and our fears. That's a whole new model designed to make the old one obsolete, which is why it threatens rulers, both then and now. Those who lord over subjects instead of sitting with them. Those who want all the gold and frankincense and myrrh which is an oil. They want that to come to their coffers instead of recognizing the priceless gift of Christ in their lives. If Christmas is the gift of God coming close, then Epiphany perhaps is the gift that we return, recognizing that we cannot remain unchanged and committing to reorienting our lives to the way of Christ. So, let us come to the table and go home by another way. Amen.